Okay, I'm going to get started this morning by welcoming everyone. Welcome, Sawadee-Kap. Nice to see all of you guys here. Welcome to everyone online as well. Today is our group learning program, and I guide you guys in meditation, and then I just open up to any and all questions that you guys have. Whereas on Sundays and Saturdays, I spend time kind of having formal instruction, where on Wednesdays, it's more about just whatever questions you guys have, free-form questions. So those of you guys here at the temple, you guys can ask questions, and even those of you online. What we do is we start with meditation. So I'm going to share with you guys a guided loving kindness meditation. This is a meditation that helps you to eliminate anger, hatred, ill will, any kind of frustration, irritation, annoyance. If you have negative self-talk in your mind, or you have this degrading and diminishing inner dialogue within your own mind, this is a great meditation to help you with that. So I'm going to help you guys to understand a bit about what it is, and then I'll actually guide you in this meditation. What we're going to be doing is I'm going to start off with some chanting to ease us into meditation. Then I'm going to provide you some guidance on breathing mindfulness meditation, which we do just for a few minutes beforehand. Then we move into this loving kindness meditation, where we do these affirmations in the mind. You're going to hear me saying these affirmations out loud. And when you hear these affirmations, you would repeat them in your own mind on the out breath. So I'm going to be saying things like, may I be peaceful. And then in your own mind, you would say, may I be peaceful on the out breath. And then I'm going to say, may I be safe. And then again, you'll repeat that within your own mind on the out breath. May I be well. May I be free of all discontentedness and the suffering it causes. Then we're going to go through successive rings, probably about 4 to 6 rings, and we're going to eventually get to all beings. Now, I'm going to make this meditation such that it applies to all of us, but what you would like to do is to be able to customize it over time when you go home and you're practicing this. If you have anger and hatred towards your mom or your dad or brothers or sisters, or maybe there's an ex-boyfriend or girlfriend or husband or wife that you had challenges with, your mind's still holding on to anger, you would like to actually put that person in your meditation. You're not wishing that they become loving and kind. You're not trying to change them. Instead, what you're doing is you're transforming your own mind, eliminating your own anger, hatred, and ill will, so that now you can be liberated from those feelings. Because holding on to the anger and hatred is just causing harm to your own mind. So if you're still in a relationship with this person, you can transform your mind, and you'll be able to be more loving and kind when you're around that person. If you're no longer in a relationship with this person, you'll never see this person again. This is still helpful for you, because you got to liberate the mind from that anger, hatred, and ill will. As long as that's in there, it's going to come out towards other people. So we start with I, because you need to have loving kindness for this being. What loving kindness is this genuine interest in seeing all beings be well, active goodwill towards all beings. Then from there, as you learn how to have loving and kind thoughts toward this being, you'll be able to then practice that with others. But if you don't know how to love yourself, how could you love others? So what this meditation is doing is transforming your mind, starting with yourself, so you can have a better relationship with yourself. And now you can go out into the world and be loving and kind through your intentions, your speech, and your actions. So after the loving kindness guidance, we'll go back to breathing mindfulness meditation for a period of time, and then we're going to come out of the meditation with some more chanting. It's kind of like a loving kindness sandwich. You could think of it this way, with loving kindness in the middle, and lettuce and tomato is the breathing mindfulness meditation on the outsides, and then you've got the bread holding it all together, which is the chanting. This chanting that we do, you guys, some of you guys have the chanting sheets. You can get the chanting sheets over there on the table if you'd like to see the chants that we're going to be doing, and you can actually chant along. These chants are most likely created by the Buddha's students, either during his life or after his death. Because what you'll notice is there's a lot of admiration, a lot of respect, a lot of gratitude for the Buddha. And a Buddha doesn't walk around teaching others to chant to them and show respect to them. He would have eliminated his arrogance and his ego. So he's not going to teach his students to say these things in order to respect him. But if you learn from a teacher how to move from the anger and the sadness and the frustration to the peace and the calm, the serenity and the contentedness that the enlightened mental state is, where you no longer experience any discontent feelings, you'd have a lot of respect and admiration and gratitude for that person too. So I suspect his students created these chants either during his life or after his death. There's no rites, rituals, ceremonies, or worship in the teachings of the Buddha. There aren't any beliefs in the teachings of the Buddha. So when you're chanting these, you're not chanting to the Buddha. You're not asking him to do anything for you. There's no rite or ritual or ceremony or worship here. Instead, what we're doing with the chanting is we're easing our mind into meditation and getting more benefit out of the meditation itself. During the lifetime of the Buddha, they used chanting as a way to commit the teachings to memory, because during his lifetime, he just taught orally. Everything was oral. So he would have his students once every 2 weeks come together and they would recite his teachings word for word for word. And that was the way they remembered his teachings, because everything was oral, nothing was written down. So there isn't anything mystical or magical about these chants. It's not a prayer or worship or anything like that. It's just to help us ease our mind into meditation, because we don't need to chant the teachings anymore. We have books, audiobooks, videos, podcasts, all different kinds of ways to be able to capture the teachings and be able to remember those for the future. So if you'd like to join in the meditation, I'm going to ease us in with the chanting. You'll hear me giving you the guidance on breathing mindfulness meditation. There's a period of quiet where we'll just be doing that for a brief period. Then I'm going to come back in with the loving kindness meditation, go back to breathing mindfulness, and back to the chanting. This sounds like a lot, but I'm going to guide you guys all the way through it. And this is a practice that you'll be able to slowly build up so that you can eliminate anger, hatred, and ill will from the mind. In terms of your body positioning, you could be sitting, lying, standing, or walking. These are 4 different positions for meditation. With loving kindness meditation, we usually use seated, lying, or standing. We don't use walking position for loving kindness meditation. And since all you guys are sitting, I'll just kind of share with you guys some guidance on seated meditation. Is you'd like to sit with your legs just lightly crossed. This helps the circulation in the lower body. Whereas if your legs are real tight, it would impede the circulation and it could cause pain in the lower body. So anytime you notice pain, just adjust the body positioning. Some people like to put their legs off the mat. This gets the hips up in the air and it lessens the angle at the hips, the knees, and the ankles. So if you'd like to do that, you're more than welcome to do that. The Buddha put his right hand over his left with his thumbs together, and he put this into his lap. If you would like to use that, you're more than welcome. But this practice isn't about everybody doing it exactly the same way. There's multiple options here. So some people like to put their palms on their thighs or on their knees. Some people put their palms up. Some people rest their hands comfortably in the lap. It's whatever is comfortable for you. So you like to just find a place for your hands and arms that's nice and relaxed and comfortable. So the lower body and the hands and arms should be relaxed. And that's the same thing for anybody that's on a chair or a sofa, a bench, a wheelchair, anything like that. Your lower body and your hands and arms can just be relaxed and comfortable. The upper body should be erect. This keeps the mind attentive and alert during the meditation, whereas if you were slouched, the mind would have a tendency to be dull or lethargic. But if you were real rigid with the upper body, the mind could be overactive or uptight. So you'd like the body to be in the middle with the sternum up and the shoulders back. This keeps the mind attentive and alert during the meditation, and it also helps you to breathe in through the nose and out through the nose. So again, I'm going to ease us into meditation with some chanting, which you guys are welcome to join along in, and then I'll come back in with the guidance for the meditation. Arahang Samma Sambuddho Mahakawa Wat Tung Mahakawanhang Apiwateyami Sawakato Mahakawata Dhammo Dhammang Namasami Supatipano Mahakavato Sāvaka Saṅkho Saṅghang Namami Namo Arhasa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa Namo Arhasa Bhagavato Arahato สัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะนะโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะอิติปิโสมะหะวะอะระหังสัมมาสัมพุทโธวิชาจารณังสัมมุโนสกขาโตโรกาวิตุอนุเตโรปุริสาดามาสติสัตตาตาวะมานุสนังโอโตภะคะวะติ Okay, with the lower body and hands and arms comfortable, and the upper body erect, just close the eyes and start breathing in through the nose and out through the nose. Here you're just looking to establish the breath. A nice, natural, steady, consistent breath. Not forced or controlled, just a gradual inhale through the nose, experiencing the full breath. And then, whenever you're ready, exhale out through the nose. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. Your breath may not match up with the guidance that I'm providing, and that's okay. This is your practice. I'm just here for guidance. You can use this voice as a reminder that whenever you get to the next inhale, breathing gradually through the nose, developing a nice, natural, steady, consistent breath. And then, whenever you're ready, exhale out through the nose, experiencing the full breath. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. With the breath well established, start fixating the mind on the breath, either the sound of the breath coming into the nose or the sensation of air moving over the skin into the nose. The breath is the present moment. Fixate the mind on the breath, the present moment. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. with the mind fixated on the breath. Whenever you notice that the mind moves off the breath, cut that off, let it go, and come back to the breath, the present moment. No need to observe the thought, label it, judge it, analyze it, or even try to figure out where it's coming from. Whenever you notice that the mind is moved off the breath, cut that off, let it go, and come back to the breath, the present moment. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. I'm going to be quiet now and let you do this work of focusing on the breath, cutting off and letting go anytime the mind moves off the breath. Then I'll be back with more guidance on loving kindness meditation. You have nowhere to go. There's nothing to do. No one needs you right now. This is your time to focus on the breath. Breathing in and out. Continuing to breathe in through the nose and out through the nose. On the out breath, repeat these affirmations in the mind. May I be peaceful. May I be safe. May I be well. May I be free of all discontentedness in the suffering it causes. May Mom and Dad be peaceful. May they be safe. May they be well. May they be free of all discontentedness in the suffering it causes. May my family and friends all be happy. May they be safe. May they be well. May they be free of all discontentedness and the suffering it causes. May all those who have harmed me be peaceful. May they be safe. May they be well. May they be free of all discontentedness and the suffering it causes. May all those who I have harmed be peaceful. May they be safe. May they be well. May they be free of all discontentedness and the suffering it causes. May all beings, wherever they reside, be peaceful. May they be safe. May they be well. May they be free of all discontentedness and the suffering it causes. Now return back to breathing mindfulness meditation, focusing on the breath, cutting off and letting go anytime the mind moves off the breath. Breathing in and out. อะระหังสัมมาสัมพุทโธภะคะวาโอตังมหาคะวันหังอภิวาเทมิสวากขาโตมหาคะวตาธัมโมธัมมังนามัสสามิสุปฏิปันโนมหาคะวะโตสาวกสังโฆสังฆังนามามินะโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะนะโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะนะโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะอิติปิโสมหาคะวะอะระหังสัมมาสัมพุทโธวิชาจารณังสัมมุโนสัคคะโตโรกาวิตุอนุเตโรปุริสาธัมมาสติสัตตตาวะมานุสนังพุทโธภะคะวะติ All right, if you guys would like to slowly make your way out of meditation. Once again, I'd like to welcome everyone here at the temple. Welcome to all of you guys. Welcome to everyone who's joining us online as well. As I mentioned earlier, today is our group learning program where each Sunday and Wednesday I get together with students, helping them establish a foundation in the path to enlightenment. We use this book, Developing a Life Practice, The Path That Leads to Enlightenment. This is our source text for this particular program. And each Sunday I go chapter by chapter, helping you guys understand this. And we're this week going to be in chapter 22. We're actually coming to the close of the group learning program. We're going to be restarting it at the very beginning on October 20th. So on Sundays, I do a talk from the book based on each individual chapter. And then on Wednesdays, I do meditation with students and open up to any and all questions that you guys have. Whether you're here at the temple or you're online, you can ask any and all questions, whether it's related to anything that I talk about or something you're seeing in the world, some struggle, some personal challenge that you're experiencing, maybe something you're seeing in the world related to Buddhism or something you're seeing here at Thailand you'd like to ask questions about. You're more than welcome to ask any and all questions that you like. Those of you guys here at the temple, if you'd like to ask questions, we have microphones here at the white bowl. You just get a microphone, press the gray button. You'll see the lights come on and you just hold it up to your chin and then ask any question that you like. We'll be able to hear you here at the temple and they'll be able to hear you online as well. And for those of you guys that are online in Facebook, YouTube, or Zoom, you can ask questions by putting it into the comment section. And from there, I'll be able to see it and answer your question. And if you're in Zoom, you can electronically raise your hand and ask any and all questions that you like. For those of you guys here at the temple for the first time, there's a bathroom in the the very back of the room, the very last door on the right. You're welcome to use that at any time that you like. We even have bathrooms outside. If you go out to the parking lot, there's signs that'll take you around to the main bathrooms for the temple. And then we have snacks and juice and water and things like that our students provide over here on the table that you're welcome to help yourself to. So what I thought I would do is just give you guys just a little bit of information about the teachings of the Buddha, and then I'll open up the questions that you guys have about anything I share or anything that you see anywhere else, or like I said, any kind of personal challenges that you have. Essentially what the teachings of the Buddha are for is to help you heal from what's hurting you so that you never need to hurt ever again. So if you're not interested in experiencing anger and sadness, frustration, irritation, annoyance, guilt, shame, fear, stress, anxiety, loneliness, boredom, shyness, resentment, jealousy, all these discontent feelings in others, if you're not interested in that anymore and you don't enjoy experiencing those things, you can actually eliminate them from the mind. All it takes is training of the mind. You just need the wisdom of how to do that. So the teachings of the Buddha aren't about a bunch of beliefs. They're not about a bunch of rites or rituals and ceremonies. No matter where you've been or what you've seen in the Buddhist world, if you've seen these kinds of things, it's actually not what the Buddha originally taught. He taught instead to eradicate pollutions out of the mind. There's 10 individual pollutions that are referred to as fetters, and we call them fetters because during the lifetime of the Buddha, they would attach a fetter to your ankle, and they would have a chain and a ball, and it would keep a prisoner trapped in a certain area. They would keep him confined. So these 10 fetters are keeping the mind continuing to experience the anger and the sadness and the frustration and all these other discontent feelings, a lack of concentration and a lack of memory. You're having perhaps challenges in some of your personal relationships or some of your professional relationships, but you can eradicate all of this through eliminating these pollutions, these 10 fetters. These 10 fetters bubble up to something we call the 3 poisons or the 3 unwholesome roots or the 3 fires. This is called craving, anger, and ignorance. And I thought what I would do is just give you guys a little bit of a summary of these, because the meditations we just did today are actually helping you to eradicate these. There's other things you need besides these meditations, but let me just share with you guys about this kind of high-level description of these 10 pollutions. They kind of bubble up to 3 high-level things. The first one is called craving, desire, attachment, wants, and expectations. This is the mind longing, yearning, wanting things to be a certain way. There's certain selfish desires that the mind has. It's like the next new shiny object waiting around the corner is going to provide some lasting satisfaction. So the mind chases after it, and it chases and it chases, and it thinks that this thing is going to provide some lasting satisfaction. And if you get what you want, you get happy. But if you don't get what you want, you get sad. It's kind of like the mind thinks that, oh, I know what I need to make my life better. I need a new boyfriend or girlfriend. That's what I need. Let me chase that for a while. And now your mind might chase that. And then maybe you get it. And then you experience happiness at the beginning, but then before too long, you end up in the sadness because you're not getting what you want. And then the mind's like, oh, I know what I need. I need some more money. Let me get some more money. And the mind chases after that for a while. And maybe you get what you want. And maybe you're happy for a period of time, but then that fades away too. And then you're like, oh, I know what I need. I need a new job. That's what I need. That'll solve everything. Let me get a new job. And now you chase that for a while. And maybe you get that. And then you feel happy for a little while. But then you feel sad after that, because the mind is basing its inner feelings on some condition. If I get a new boyfriend or girlfriend, I'll be happy. If I get more money, I'll be happy. If I get a new job, I'll be happy. But that happiness is only temporary. It's arising, it's changing, and it's fading away because it's based on some condition. If you get happy, for example, when your bank account balance is here, well, you're basing your inner feeling on that condition, and that condition is not permanent. It is impermanent. So when your bank account changes, because it's going to change, everything around you is constantly changing. So when this bank account changes and it goes down, you'll feel sad. You'll feel frustrated. You'll feel other discontent feelings because you based your feeling of happiness on this thing, and that thing isn't permanent. So therefore, your happiness isn't permanent either. Same thing with a boyfriend or girlfriend. If you come together with that person, you might get so happy at the beginning, But then things change in the relationship. You're not getting your expectations met anymore. And now you feel sad because the mind's not getting what it wants. You based your inner feelings on this person. And now when you're with them, you feel happy. But when you're away from them, you feel sad or miserable or lonely or bored or frustrated or angry or some other discontent feeling. So the mind just stays stuck in this continuous cycle of experiencing this over and over and over again because of its cravings, its longing, its yearning. It can only be happy when it gets what it wants. And then when the mind's not getting what it wants, it feels sad or frustrated or some other discontent feeling. And you can independently verify this by looking at something in your life. Look at a recent time when you've been angry, when you've been sad, when you've been frustrated. Oftentimes what we do is we look for other people to blame, or we look for someone else to, say that they're the ones who are causing this particular feeling. But look at this with this new fresh eyes. There's craving, desire, attachment. There's this longing, yearning that your mind, if you would have got what you wanted, you would have been happy. But because you didn't get what you wanted, you were sad or frustrated or irritated or annoyed. You can see this if you look at the situations that you've experienced objectively. Now, I know that we've all been in arguments where we've been adamantly arguing with somebody, trying to convince them that what they were doing is making you angry. But in reality, what's causing this is your own craving, desire, attachment, the longing, the yearning, wanting things to be a certain way. And the mind can't get what it wants permanently. It's just not possible. So when it doesn't get what it wants, when those cravings aren't fulfilled, it moves to this anger. This is the second pollution, or the second unwholesome root, or the second poison. This anger, this bitterness, this hostility starts to arise, this resentment. And when you start feeling those painful feelings, you'll tend to falsely attribute them to somebody else or something external. You'll think your mom and dad is making you angry, or your brothers and sisters are making you angry, or your boss, or your neighbor, or something else. You'll focus on something external because the mind is experiencing this hostility and bitterness and anger, and it's got to find somebody else to blame because it doesn't understand what's actually causing it. So now when you're experiencing that anger, you might push somebody away, or you might push a situation away, thinking that that's going to solve the problem. You might have been pushing people out of your life, but that didn't solve the problem because you keep getting angry and irritated and annoyed over and over and over again. Or you might be bitter and harsh and hostile towards people with your intentions, your speech, your actions. It's almost like an animal growling and roaring and showing your teeth at this other being and trying to fear that person into doing things your way. So you might have been bitter and harsh and hostile to people, and then they might have chose to leave out of your life because of that. Or you might have put your expectations on people and trying to control them or force them to do things your way. This is what the unenlightened mind does when it lacks wisdom, is that when the anger is arising, when the painful feelings are arising, it doesn't understand that it's really craving, desire, attachment that's causing it. So it'll falsely attribute these feelings to something external, and you'll push these people away. You'll be bitter, harsh, and hostile, or you'll put your expectations on people and try to control them. And where all of this is coming from is the what we call ignorance or unknowing of true reality, the lack of wisdom, the misunderstanding, the confusion. The mind just doesn't understand what it doesn't understand. The unenlightened mind lacks wisdom to understand that what's really causing these feelings is the craving, desire, attachment. That's what's causing it. So because of its lack of wisdom, because of its unknowing of true reality, the mind just stays stuck in this continuous cycle. So what an individual is doing on the path to enlightenment is they're coming to a place like this. They're reading books, they're consulting with a teacher, they're asking questions to be able to understand the teachings of the Buddha more. And we share with you teachings slowly but surely over the course of weeks and months. We gradually help you to learn, either here at the temple or online. And now you don't believe any of these teachings. You learn them, you investigate them, you examine them, you reflect on them to independently verify whether what I'm saying is true or false. And then you practice it. You integrate the teachings into your life. And some of the things that you integrate are the meditations, like what we just did. The breathing mindfulness meditation, that's helping you to eliminate craving, desire, attachment. Because with craving, desire, attachment, the mind will hold on. It doesn't want to let go. It wants things to be a certain way. And the mind just doesn't know how to let go. This is why when you were with that boyfriend or girlfriend, you felt great for a while, but then when you separated and you guys went your separate ways, you were still lonely. You were still bored. You were still angry and frustrated because your mind was holding on. You just couldn't let go of this person. The mind wouldn't let go. But then at some point, your mind ultimately maybe has let go. So what you can do with the breathing mindfulness meditation is cultivate mindfulness and awareness of mind. You can train their mind to let go so that now in your day-to-day life, when you're noticing the anger starting to arise, you can let it go. Eventually, if you do this enough with the training in meditation and outside of meditation, because there's an entire path that you need to learn, you'll never have anger arise anymore. It doesn't even arise. But in the meantime, you're going to need to gradually train your mind to be able to let go and let go and let go. And then you also practice generosity, which is the giving and sharing of more than is strictly required in any given situation without any expectation of anything in return. Because when you're sharing with other people, you're training your mind to let go. Then this anger, this hatred, this ill will, you're using loving kindness meditation to cultivate within your own mind to be more loving and more kind. And then you go out into the world and you practice it through your intentions, your speech, and your actions. And the Buddha gives you guidance on how to do this in the Eightfold Path, where oftentimes when we're angry and you're bitter and you're frustrated, you're agitated, you might want other people to change. But you can't change other people. You can only change your own mind. So by using this loving kindness meditation, you're essentially rewiring the mind to be more loving and kind, so that now when you're in your relationships, you can be more loving and kind. And when you put out love and kindness, that's what you'll see coming back to you. But as long as you're bitter and harsh and hostile towards others, it's going to just keep coming back to you. So you'll stay stuck in this continuous cycle where you might want mom and dad to change. You might want brothers and sisters to change, or your life partner, your children. But as long as you keep wanting them to change, you're not doing the work that you need to do to change and to improve. So when you transform your mind and you rewire your mind to be loving and kind, more and more as you're putting that out around you, that's what will come back to you. So you'll need this meditation, but then you'll also need the Eightfold Path, which is teaching you how to practice intention, speech, and actions that are loving and kind. And this is how you antidote the ignorance or the unknowing of true reality, is by cultivating wisdom, by learning teachings, examining them, investigating them, by reflecting on them to independently verify them and then practice them. You're cultivating more and more wisdom. You can understand these natural laws of existence around you. This is why the Buddha never taught any rites, rituals, ceremonies, and worship, because there's no amount of water that I can sprinkle on you that's going to make you wiser. There's no amount of strings that I can tie on your wrist that's going to make you wiser and smarter and help you to eradicate the pollutions out of the mind. There's no amount of ceremonies or prayer or any kind of belief or anything like this that is going to transform your mind and cultivate wisdom to go out into the world and make wiser decisions in your relationships. So what the Buddha gave you is he gave you teachings that are going to guide you in understanding the natural laws of existence and training your mind. And this is something that you'll need to step up to the challenge and decide that you're done with the anger, you're done with the hostility, you're interested in cultivating harmonious relationships with other people, and now the teachings of the Buddha are going to guide you in how to be able to accomplish that. And it's these meditations and other teachings that you learn, reflect, and practice integrating into your life, and that's where you can see the improvement, because you know in situations where you were once angry and bitter and harsh, when you're experiencing those same situations, but you're not experiencing that anymore because you've been transforming your mind and training your mind, you'll know that it's these teachings that are actually doing that for you. So everything that I share here, whether it's at the temple or online, whether it's the books or classes or anything, videos, podcasts, even personal guidance, it's all available to you at no cost. So if you're interested in transforming your mind and learning how to do that, there's help for you here. You can download the books for free from our website. You can take them and go print them. You can get printed versions here by just reimbursing us for our printing cost, or you can order them on Amazon and you'll be able to get access to the teachings that you need based on the original words of the Buddha to transform your mind. And then there's help for you here to be able to gradually guide you towards this improved mental state. So I'm going to open up to any and all questions you guys have, not just about anything that I just shared. You definitely can ask questions about that, but anything and everything that you would like to ask questions about. Again, here at the temple, if you could use the mics online, and if you could put that into the comment section of Facebook, YouTube, or Zoom, or in Zoom, if you can electronically raise your hand, I'll be able to see that and then call on you. So it looks like we have a question here. If you'd like to go ahead, ma'am.
Okay. Thank you, teacher, for your time. I have two questions. My first question is, I've always had a craving for wisdom, and I'm now becoming attached to the idea of practicing meditation quite seriously. So I can see a deep irony in that. So I'm sure I'm not the first person to have discovered that what I'm attached to now is what I should not be attached to. Can you explain that for me, please?
Yeah, some people get attached to or crave enlightenment because when they start hearing about, oh my goodness, there's something out there where I can be peaceful and joyful permanently and never experience anger. Oh, I want that, right? That's like the next new shiny object waiting around the corner. And as long as the mind's doing that, you won't actually be able to experience it, but you will probably have that craving for a certain period of time. One of the ways to eliminate this is that you can think oftentimes when the mind is wanting something or craving something, it's something that the mind doesn't have. And because I don't have that car, I want that car. Or because I don't have that boyfriend or girlfriend, I want that boyfriend or girlfriend, so I'll chase after it. So one of the ways to think about this is think about it as your mind is already enlightened, but you just have this pollution in your mind, and you got to get this pollution out of the way. It's kind of like the sun is there, and then you've got the clouds in front of it, and you got to get the clouds out of the way. And if you just get the clouds out of the way, you'll start experiencing more and more of the qualities of enlightenment. So even though we say attain enlightenment, one of the ways I also explain it is I say you need to be able to experience enlightenment. And the way you experience it is get the pollution out of the way. So if you think about it as if the mind is already enlightened, it's already there, I just got to get the pollutions out of the way, then you'll have less of a tendency to chase after it because it's something you already have.
Thank you. That's a good reframing of how to view it. My next question is, I have a burgeoning understanding of the benefits of long-term meditative practice. Not that I really quite understand it either, but I'm wondering if I feel better when I'm meditating, but I'm not sure if that's just me deceiving myself. Are there very short-term benefits of meditation?
Yeah, some people can see benefits as short as 1 or 2 days. I've had students share that. They've given me specific examples of how they've noticed improvement. This is not uncommon because what you're doing in meditation is you're actively training the mind during a dedicated, purposeful training session. And you're cultivating certain wholesome qualities and you're eliminating certain unwholesome qualities. Just like you take this body to the gym, perhaps. I don't do that anymore, as you can see. But just like you can take this body to the gym and you can start noticing benefits, like you have a little bit more energy, you have a little bit more strength, you're noticing maybe your joints are moving a little bit better, things like this. You can notice that pretty soon. The same thing is true about the mind, is that as you're exercising the mind, you can see these wholesome qualities starting to increase and you can see the unwholesome qualities decreasing, and you'll notice this in your day-to-day life. Just like when you take a shower and you notice the benefit, like, wow, I feel fresher, I smell better, wow, this feels great, I like the clean body. Well, you probably like to have a clean mind too, right? Because if you're only addressing the body and that's all you're cleaning is the body, you're not addressing the entire being. You need to address the other part of this being, which is the mind. Oftentimes we're taught to clean the body from our parents growing up. We're taught to brush our teeth. We're taught to clean our body, but there's this other part to this individual. It's the mind. And oftentimes, depending on where we've grown up and what family we've grown up in, we might not have been taught how to clean the mind. Here in Thailand, a lot of the children are taught that. And this is one of the reasons why you see so much peacefulness in Thai society, is because people have been cleaning their mind for 800 to 1200 years since these teachings have made their way here. So you can learn how to not just clean the body, but also clean the mind. And having done so, you'll notice the benefits pretty readily. People notice it. And as you go, it'll just accumulate more and more. You're from Australia. I don't know if they have snow in Australia, but you probably know the analogy, like a snowball. As you roll it, it just kind of accumulates more and more and more and more snow. And the same thing is true about the mind, is that you accumulate more and more benefits as you go. The mind almost matures. It just matures and matures and matures, and it becomes more and more refined as you practice it for a consistent long-term period.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Ma'am, you have a question? You have one back there as well? Do you have a microphone? Just come on up here and you can get a microphone. You can take it back to you, to your seat.
I've been learning and practicing Vipassana meditation for about 1 month. And I think at the beginning during the practice, it's just like there will be some thoughts just coming up. And then when I notice that, I just bring back to my notice of the breath. But recently there are some like very random image. So it's not like thoughts, it's just like a very random image or the very random, even like a story. So the people or the place or the thing I think in my mind, like I have no idea. And I think that's like nothing to do with me. I'm not involved in any of that. So at the beginning, if I have thoughts, I can just like easily bring back to the breath. But when this image come, I was like, what is that? Like, I think our mind cannot create things from nowhere. I don't know. I'm not sure about that. Or it is something to do with the past life.
So the mind contains in it many different things. One of the things it contains is residual memories from past lives. It also contains certain imaging from this life. And it's also very creative. It's very powerful. It can actually create images as well. So with your eyes closed, you can still sometimes see things because sight is happening inside the brain. It's not happening with the eyes. There is light that the eye brings in, but the eye is just a lens. The sight is actually occurring inside the brain. So even with the eyes closed, the mind can still experience things. So the brain is one thing and the mind is something completely different. The brain is the physical organ, and then the mind is this non-physical thing. That's what we're training. And there's a connection between these two things. So as the mind is being trained, you can sometimes have residual memories from the mind from either this life or previous life. All you need to do is when these things are occurring during your meditation, just cut them off, let them go, and keep bringing the mind back to the breath. Just let it go. You'll see these kinds of things occurring from time to time. Even when your mind's enlightened, you're still going to have thoughts during your meditation. Sometimes people think that the goal of this meditation is to eliminate your thoughts because of the guidance of cutting off and letting go and bringing your mind back to the breath. But the goal is not to eliminate your thoughts. The goal is to be able to notice that you had a thought sooner and sooner and be able to let it go easier and easier. So when you first start meditation, you usually get bombarded with thoughts, lots and lots of thoughts or images and things like this. As you go further, you'll still have thoughts, but they're going to be spaced out. Your mind's going to be quieted and stilled. So not only can you have lots of thoughts early in your practice, but you can also have a thought and you can indulge in that thought and follow it and look at it for a while. So this images, if it's pleasurable or if it's painful, you might be looking at them for a while and kind of following it. And you would like to get to the point where when you notice that your mind's moved off the breath, that you cut that off, let it go, and come back to the breath, no matter what it is. If it's a wholesome thought or unwholesome thought, if it's some kind of imagery, cut it off and let it go and come back. That's what you're doing in meditation. In day-to-day life, you're only cutting off the unwholesome things. So if you have a thought to like take your mom out to dinner, go ahead. No need to cut that off. That's wonderful. Practice some generosity with your mom. But if you have a thought of like punching your boss in the face, right? Like this would be unwise. You're not interested in doing that. So cut that off because that would cause harm. And now you're not interested in causing someone physical injury, causing harm to the material possessions or their reputation. So if you're going to have any speech or actions that are going to be harmful, you'd like to cut those off. And that's what you'll be able to do if you've been training your mind with breathing mindfulness, meditation, and generosity. You'll notice these things coming up, not just in meditation, but in daily life, and you'll be able to cut them off and let them go. And now you'll gain control and discipline of your mind. Because when the mind's angry and sad and frustrated and lonely and bored, you don't have control over your mind in that situation. The mind is untrained and uncontrolled. So you would like to gain this discipline and control of the mind that you can see these thoughts sooner and sooner, and you can let them go easier and easier in meditation. And then in daily life, just cut off the unwholesome thoughts.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm. You're welcome. Ma'am? Yes, ma'am. Sounds like it's not on yet. I can hear you, but not through the mic.
Hello. Now it's working. So, thank you for sharing. And I do feel a lot of like answers for my current situation, from which you just mentioned that I work-wise, I've been, and also personal KPI-wise, I've been bothered a lot, and I have trouble to sleep. I don't know how to let my mind to give away all the things that it holds on. And I mean, like, I feel that I'm now in a negative extreme. However, my question would be, as you mentioned, that we should taught our mind not to chasing the shining objects, but on another hand, I somehow feel that those like those goals of life or career-wise, whatever, they're kind of like motivations. So how can we balance it? Like, like those are still the things that keep us motivated, but it's not a thing that we will get bothered by. Another thing is, as you mentioned, that we should let it go if other people choose the way that we do not want them to do, or we want to kind of like control over them. But in the workplace, we often need to do the persuasion negotiation, so to like achieve the goal. But then how can we find a middle way, find a balance over it?
Okay, so the way that the mind functions in the unenlightened state is based on its lack of wisdom in these pollutions that are in the mind, and it doesn't know any other way. So right now, the way that you function in the workforce and in your private life, personal life, you can only see that way because that's the way that you've been functioning for whatever amount of time. And that pollution of mind is one of the reasons why an individual will have trouble sleeping, because you mentioned that as well, that you have trouble sleeping. And this is from the pollution in the mind, that the mind just can't relax and easily fall asleep. So these are indications to you, not only the difficulty sleeping, but if you're having difficulties in relationships, this is indications to you that the mind isn't well trained. And this is where you don't have to think of yourself as a bad person. You don't have to feel guilty or shameful. You can just realize, like, okay, you don't have all the wisdom you need to be able to live this life. And typically what the unenlightened mind can see is it can usually see one side or the other. It can see, I've got to pressure people and motivate them and encourage them to do things my way, and that's going to be success in performing at life, and that's one way to see it. And then there's this other side that the mind can usually see, is where you sit around and you're dull and lethargic and you feel indifferent and you don't really do anything to get involved in the world and move your life forward. In neither of those two things, you're going to be peaceful and joyful. Chasing after things, pressuring people, trying to persuade them to do things your way, you're never going to get to peacefulness that way, because people aren't going to always do things your way. But then also over here, if you never did anything in your life and you were indifferent and you could care less about your career growth and your personal goals and stuff like that, you would never be able to get to peace and joy either there. So there is this middle way where you can pursue things through wise decision making, through a true goal, through a true objective or a true interest. Over here with craving, desire, attachment, the mind will chase after things. It might call something a goal, but it's not actually a real goal. What it is a craving, desire, attachment, that if I get what I want, I will be happy. And if I don't get what I want, I will be sad and frustrated and agitated and annoyed. That's not an actual goal. That's a craving, desire, attachment. That's a want. That's an expectation where the mind is forming its inner feelings based on whether I get that thing or not. That's a craving, desire, attachment. The middle way is to pursue things as a true goal. What a true goal and a true objective is I'm going to work towards this thing. I'm going to apply decision making as best of my ability to try to work towards this thing. And if I get it, great. And if I don't get it, that's okay too. Now I'm just going to look at where I'm at and decide what I need to do next. If I've gotten 80% of my goal or 80% of my objective, I just need to look at it and say, okay, well, what am I going to do next? Am I going to extend my timeline and give myself more time to get to this goal? Am I going to add more resources in order to try to help me to be able to acquire this goal? Or am I just completely comfortable with the 80% of the goal and I don't need to go any further because 80% is plenty for me? That's all I need to do is get to 80%, right? So that's a true goal, that you're not forming your inner feelings based on whether you accomplish this thing or not. But oftentimes what people are doing is they're out there chasing after things, calling it a goal, but in reality, it's a craving, it's a desire, it's an expectation. So you can wisely make choices in the workforce using these teachings without putting pressure and expectations on people. I ran small businesses before, and I worked in corporate companies as well. And I didn't do that. I didn't force people. I didn't try to persuade people. I just shared my thoughts. I shared my opinions. I shared what it is that I was interested in accomplishing. And then I saw who was with me and who was interested in going down that direction with me. And we would go down that direction and we would make decisions to implement that particular goal. And if people weren't interested in doing what it is that I was interested to do, then either I did it by myself or I just decided, you know what, it's not really that important. People aren't really interested in it anyway. So why would I implement this decision if nobody's interested in it anyway? Right? But with the mind's craving, desire, attachment, you might feel like your objective in the workforce is to convince people or persuade people to do it your way. But that's not the way to experience a successful professional life. Instead, you can just walk down this path informing people what it is that you think that we should be doing as a company or as a small working group. And then if people are on board with you, great, let's do this together. But if not, then that's fine too. And either you just do it by yourself or you decide, hey, nobody else is interested in it, so I'm just not going to do it. It's not wise to actually do it. You never are interested in putting yourself in a position where you're pressuring or you're forcing other people to do things, because that's not going to promote peacefulness and harmony in your relationships or within your own mind. Any other questions here? Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Hello. My question is pretty the same with this lady. And when I do the meditation, actually, I don't have any picture, but it's like the people who I have relationship with, like my the people will come out to my thought. So I really want to know what exactly is let it go, like, because sometimes I feel like I want to say I forgive you, or sometimes I want to say I already forgive myself. So so I think let it go. I have no idea, is that right? We say goodbye. Yeah, that's it. My question.
Yeah, when we talk about letting something go, it doesn't mean that you need to end a relationship or that you need to eliminate the possession from your life. In some situations, yeah, you're going to need to do that, but that's not the case in all situations. When we talk about letting it go, what we mean is don't allow the mind to hold on to it and crave this permanence and wanting this thing to be permanent. And the way that you eliminate attachment is you can cut it off and let it go. That's some of the attachments, and you use breathing mindfulness meditation, use generosity and other things to be able to train your mind to let it go, mentally let it go. But then there's some cravings, desires, attachments that you need to be able to fulfill them in order to let it go. Like, for example, if I was always interested in going to the Philippines and I just always wanted to go there, well, you could cut that off and let it go if you like. That's one way to get rid of it. Or you could just go to the Philippines, check it out, look around, see it. And then once you've been there, done that, it's like, all right, been there, done that. I'm not interested in going there anymore because I've already done it, right? You just kind of cross it off your list and you don't crave that thing anymore. But you got to be careful, because then the mind's going to want the next thing and the next thing and the next thing and the next thing. You got to be careful with the mind and observe it to see, what am I going to do in this situation? Am I going to cut it off and let it go, or am I going to fulfill it? So in each situation, whenever you see the mind's craving, you got to decide what is it that you're going to do. And just remember that letting go of a craving, desire, attachment doesn't mean you eliminate the relationship or that you eliminate the object. What you do need to do, though, oftentimes is you need to, if you're going to cut it off and let it go, is distance yourself from the object. So like this phone, like one time I was attached to my phone. And the way I knew that is because one day I left it at home by accident and I noticed some fear come up in my mind. I got very, very fearful. And the first thing I wanted to do was turn around and go get the phone. But I knew that wasn't going to solve the problem because the mind was craving for this phone to be permanent. And there was no way that it could be permanent in my life. So going around to get the phone didn't actually solve the problem. The problem wasn't that I didn't have my phone. The problem was that the mind was longing and yearning for the phone, wanting it to be permanent. The mind was craving, desiring, having attachment. That's the cause of the problem. It wasn't that I didn't have my phone. That's not the problem. So going around to the house and getting the phone wasn't going to actually solve the problem. So I knew I needed to eliminate the craving. And what you need to do is distance yourself from the object. So that day I was supposed to only be out for an hour and a half, but I decided to stay out longer. I was out like 5-6 hours. I went to eat food. I went to the movies. I did all kinds of things. And then when I came home, I didn't just run to the phone and look at see what was going on with the phone. I just left it wherever it was. I just spent time with my son. We watched a little TV. We did whatever we were going to do. And then maybe an hour or two later, I went and looked at the phone and checked it out. I was like, hey, who contacted me? And this was training your mind by distancing yourself from it. So then, because I knew this was the case, over the next couple of weeks, I intentionally left the phone at home. About every 2 or 3 days, I intentionally left the phone at home. And now, after doing that several times, I was convinced that the mind had let this go. And I started taking it with me every day. But then about 2 months later, I accidentally left it at home again. And I went to reach for my phone. It wasn't there. I was like, oh, well, okay, it's gone. I just continued on with my day. No fear, no nothing. And that's how I knew that I had eliminated the attachment. And then about a year later, I had dropped the phone and the screen completely shattered. And I was like, oh, look at that. I started laughing. I was like, look at that. I was like, the phone's impermanent. Of course the phone, the screen just broke. And fortunately, I had another phone that my wife had that I could just use that one instead because I couldn't afford to buy another phone. So you experience these different things, and then this is how you'll know, like, wow, look at that. These teachings work so well because the mind in the unenlightened state, it's craving permanence. It's wanting things to be permanent. But these things aren't permanent. Everything around you is impermanent. The mind wants that boyfriend or girlfriend to be permanent. It wants your bank account to be permanent. My mind wanted the phone to be permanent at one time. And that isn't going to ever happen. Because you live in an impermanent world, you're going to experience constant impermanence. So you need to train your mind up to a certain point, live your life that way for an extended period of time. And now as you're experiencing all this impermanence, your mind starts relating to it differently. Where in the past, you might have been craving permanence and you got upset when you didn't get what you wanted. Now for this extended period of time, you start living this life understanding that things are impermanent and training your mind to let go. And now when you experience that thing, it doesn't impact the mind. You don't experience the fear or the sadness or the loneliness or the boredom because there's no craving there. There's no longing, yearning for it to be permanent. Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're welcome. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Thank you for your time and love and spend this morning with us. And my question is, I just got to know more about meditation and mindfulness practice recently, and I'm planning on signing up for Vipassana, the 10-day meditation retreat. And however, it's still very scary for me to isolate myself in a place that I don't know and then practice something that I'm not familiar with. So my question is, so I've heard a lot of people they have very amazing experiences during the 10-day retreats, and but they also went through a lot of hardships and difficulties while practicing. So my question is, do you have any practical advice for me when I'm doing my following retreats experiences? Thank you.
Sure. So this might sound strange for you, but I'm going to explain it. is I don't suggest that people do these retreats early on in their practice. And the Buddha suggested the same thing, that you don't do them early in practice like this, because your mind doesn't have the training and the understanding and the wisdom of how to go through this experience and really truly benefiting it in the best way. Let me give you the analogy that the Buddha shared, and then I'll explain to you more about this. So the Buddha talks about, there was this one student who came to him that had only been studying with him for a brief period, maybe 6 months or so. This is a person studying directly with the Buddha. And he was like, oh, I'm going to go out to the forest and I'm going to be in the forest by myself, essentially. Because that's what they would do, is they would go out to the forest and they would live all by themselves. This was their retreat. They were in complete silence and quiet. And they would be out in the forest by themselves. And the Buddha says, oh, just stay here. Stay among the community. Stay here. And then he's like, no, I want to go out into the forest and be by myself. And he's like, just stay around the community. You'll have a much better time just staying around the rest of the community and the rest of your friends and people here. And he's like, no, I want to go out to the forest, right? So I want to go to the retreat. I want to go to that 10-day silent retreat. And the Buddha says, okay, let me give you an analogy to help you understand this. So there's this really fast flowing river with this strong current, and this big, strong bull elephant walks down into the water, and it's frolicking in the water, and there's this strong current, and he's just standing steady and stable in the water, frolicking in the waters, bathing himself, having such a good time. And then when he's done, he sure-footedly walks up the bank of the river and comes out of the bank of the river, and here he is on the solid, stable ground of the earth. And while this was going on, there's like this rabbit or this hare, this cat, watching the elephant. And the rabbit is saying, I'm a bull elephant. I'm a bull elephant. I can do that too. And now when the bull elephant's gone, the rabbit goes over there and gets into the water, and it's washed away. And it eventually dies, of course, right? The Buddha doesn't say that part, but yeah, I'm sure it dies, right? Well, what's going on is like all these different people are going out to all these retreats, and they're going into these 10-day environments where it's complete quiet, all day long. They're meditating for 8, 10, 12 hours a day. Everybody's on their best behavior. It's like a petri dish. And now in that experience, sometimes people's minds can almost implode on itself, because a person isn't used to being in solitary confinement, essentially, right? If you go away to prison or you go to jail, to punish you, they will put you in solitary confinement. They'll put you in the hole. They call it the hole, where nobody else is around for 23 hours a day. You're in a jail cell by yourself. 1 hour a day, they let you come out and kind of walk around in like a certain yard by yourself. This is the punishment that they give you, because your mind really implodes on itself. So in day-to-day life, life is wide open, right? You've got all these temptations and all these things going on. Life is wide open. And then what people's minds do with these retreats is they swing all the way to the other side, and now they're completely closed down. No phone, no internet. Someone else is picking your food. You're not sleeping in a bed that's very comfortable, perhaps. You're completely quiet, not talking to anybody. You're meditating 8, 10, 12 hours a day, and everything's just completely shut down. Well, that's not going to lead to improved condition of mind in terms of getting to enlightenment, particularly early in practice. Later on, it could. But early in practice, when an individual is struggling during that period of time where things are really silent and really quiet, they don't have the wisdom to be able to understand how to deal with what's coming up in their mind. And oftentimes their mind can implode on itself. And then coming out of that environment of 8, 10, or 12 hours a day of meditation, and things are completely quiet, reintegrating back into the world is oftentimes very hard for them and very challenging, because now they're back out in the wide open world. What I'm teaching and what the Buddha taught is to create a sustainable, consistent, ongoing life practice that you can be doing each and every day. It's not practical for someone to meditate for 8, 10, or 12 hours a day. So you're not going to be able to integrate that kind of practice into your life. So what we teach is to meditate 2 or 3 times a day for 30 minutes or more. And this is what's going to ultimately be sustainable and something that you can maintain long term, because there's other things that you need to be able to get to enlightenment, like right speech or right action and right livelihood and all these other things. Sometimes people think that the Buddha sat under a tree. he meditated and then he instantly got to enlightenment. And they think he got to enlightenment just purely through meditation. This isn't actually true. The Buddha didn't just meditate to be able to get to enlightenment. He was interacting with people. He was practicing a whole lot of other teachings. So just going into silence and meditating for extended periods of time is not going to produce the long-term consistent practice that someone needs to be able to get to enlightenment. Where these kinds of things come into play really nicely is, say you've been practicing for a year or 2 or 3 or 4 or what have you, and you're starting to shed all these attachments and you're starting to notice that your mind's becoming more and more peaceful, and you've been identifying a good number of your attachments and you've been eliminating them, and you have the wisdom of what it takes to be able to do this. Well, now maybe there's certain attachments that you're not quite sure about and you can't see them and you don't have insight into them because you're in your normal day-to-day life. You wake up every morning with that soft, fluffy pillow. You wake up every morning and have your nice cup of ginger tea, eat your oatmeal, and you don't really see that you're attached to these things because you tend to do them each day. But now, once you have the wisdom and you've been meditating for a year or 2 or 3 or whatever it is, and you understand things like the Four Noble Truths and the Eightfold Path and the 3 poisons and extensive meditation training and these kinds of things, now if you put your mind in the situation where everything's shut down, where you don't get your ginger tea each morning, you don't have that soft fluffy pillow, you don't get your perfectly cooked oatmeal or whatever it is that you eat every morning, now you can see in that environment over a 10-day period, what is my mind craving? What am I longing and yearning for? Oh, I just want to get on Instagram so bad and I can't do it. Oh, I can feel that craving. Or, oh, I just really want that cup of ginger tea so badly. Or, oh, the oatmeal used to taste so good in the morning. Now it's not there anymore. And I feel like I really want that. So the meditation retreat itself isn't actually what's producing the benefit. What's producing the benefit is putting your mind in a situation where it's not getting what it wants, where it doesn't get the typical things that it wants. And now when you see those things, you come out of the retreat and now you start working on those to eliminate those. You get rid of your oatmeal for a few weeks. You stop looking at Instagram so much. You get rid of your ginger tea for a few weeks, and you kind of slowly move that away so that your mind can learn to have life without those things. But then at some point when you know your mind's let them go, you bring those things back in because you like ginger tea and you enjoy oatmeal and you can enjoy these things, but now your mind has learned to let them go and it's not attached to them anymore. So early on in someone's practice, if they go away to these retreats, what I see people tend to do is they tend to burn out because they go and they are completely silent. They're 8, 10, 12 hours. They think that's what it's like to get to enlightenment, and their mind just kind of implodes on itself. And then they come out of the retreat and it's really hard to reintegrate back into the world because they don't have a long-term sustainable practice. So I would encourage you to stay amongst the community, meditate, read some books, come to the temple, learn some teachings, and then a year from now, 2 years from now, 3 years from now, be that big bull elephant that goes into the water, right? Right now, maybe you're the hare, maybe you're the cat, seeing other people go away to the retreat, and you can get easily washed away in that situation. Yeah, you're welcome.
Hello. Okay, I was just trying to, I've been here a few times now, I'm trying to put into place, I've got a very good old friend who always is Muslim, but is irrelevant in this situation. He's very generous, he sort of puts everybody else before himself, to his detriment at times, because he doesn't want to upset people. So I'm just wondering how that would fit in to all this, because he's not being selfish, he's doing it because it's almost like everybody else feels well, he feels well. Yeah. But it's to his detriment. He hasn't worked in a long time now. He's now in Bangladesh, so he's had a lot of. He doesn't want to upset his girlfriend. He could be in England still, but he's not because he didn't want to upset her.
So what you're describing is someone who's not in the middle way, because you can even be practicing generosity with craving, desire, attachment. If you're practicing generosity to the extent that you're neglecting your own needs, then that's a craving, desire, attachment. So even something like generosity, you need to practice in the middle way. Even something like loving kindness and compassion, if somebody's craving that, say you have a lot of loving kindness, like a genuine interest in seeing all beings be well, and compassion is concern for the misfortune of others. Let's say you're practicing this along with craving, desire, attachment, where you walk down the street, you see a homeless person, or you see an impoverished child on the side of the street and maybe dirty and wearing rag clothes. You'll be really torn up about that internally. And though that's because the mind's not in the middle with its loving kindness and its compassion. So that's what this sounds like, is someone who's not yet practicing the middle way. So even these wholesome qualities, if you're practicing them to a high degree and a high extent, there's craving, desire, attachment in there. You even need to practice generosity, loving kindness, and compassion in the middle way, where you're gradually developing the mind, and that you understand that, yes, you have loving kindness and compassion for other beings, but you can't help everybody in every situation. It's just not possible. Because if you do it to overextend yourself, you're not going to have what you need to sustain your life. And in order to have something like loving kindness and compassion, you need to practice for this being first, because if you're not whole and you're not having your basic needs taken care of, you're not going to be able to help others. Mm-hmm.
Right, thanks.
Yeah, this is like someone depleting their own resources, even if it's their own sustainable energy, and you can't help others that way.
Yeah, it's just I couldn't, like you say, you throw karma and you do good things, you get good things come back to you. Mm-hmm. In his case, I see him do a lot of good things, mm-hmm. but I don't see a lot of good things coming back to him.
Yeah, because you still got to be doing this from the middle way. If you overextend yourself, you're going to deplete yourself. And now you're on the other side. You're not practicing the middle way. But then over here, if he never did anything for anybody, or you never did anything for anybody, you're indifferent, you're selfish, you're not going to experience improvement there either. So even with your generosity, you got to find the middle way, right? So I help lots of students, but I also spend time alone sometimes, or I spend time with my family sometimes, right? So you got to find that balance, and it's going to change and ebb and flow day by day and week by week.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Okay, we have a bunch of things online here. Let me see what we've got online. Let me just take this off. Okay, so Carrie Lee is asking, hi David, I have one quick question. I've been practicing meditation for 2 months now. Sometimes I feel some body parts have experiences I never had before. For example, when I was meditating with you in the class, I felt the top of my head vibrating like an electricity going through. Sometimes I can feel it somewhere between my eyebrows. Is that something would come up during the day or during the way? Yeah, this is common, that the body and the mind being connected to each other, that as you're training the mind and you're purifying the mind, it has a direct effect to the body. And the body is very complicated, so is the mind. And the body can experience these kinds of things. So this is completely normal. And this is where the mind is starting to be aware of the bodily sensations. This is something that you develop in your meditation, is that you start becoming aware of the 4 foundations of mindfulness. And I think you've been in classes with me before when I've taught the 4 foundations of mindfulness of the bodily sensations, the feelings, the condition of the mind, and the mental objects. If you haven't seen that yet, you can look at Volume 1, Chapter 5, and in there I describe the 4 foundations of mindfulness, and I teach it whenever I teach the Eightfold Path. So any of the recordings that I've done where I'm teaching the Eightfold Path, you can see the 4 foundations of mindfulness, because that's what's occurring, is you're starting to clue into those bodily sensations more and more, and this is actually really good for your mind, and it's going to be a quality that you need in day-to-day life to be able to observe the bodily sensations, which is the early warning system before your mind gets angry or sad or frustrated, or even the happy feelings and excited feelings. There's some bodily sensation that is alerting you that this is about to occur, and you're going to need to cut off and let go of that bodily sensation that's about to become a feeling. The mind is about to form a conditioned feeling, and you need to cut it off and let it go as a bodily sensation, so that you don't allow the mind to keep experiencing conditioned feelings. So then you can get to the unconditioned mental qualities of happiness and joy and peace and calm and all these other wholesome qualities that you'll experience as the mind's brightening up and getting closer and closer to enlightenment. Okay, let me see if we have anything on Facebook or YouTube. Okay, it looks like we have a few things here from Chris on Facebook. I understand that anger arising in an individual is a result of them not training their mind sufficiently, but if a person is consistently angry, does that also indicate that an afflicted spirit or hell being is consistently bothering them? No, that doesn't indicate that. If someone's angry, what's causing that is the craving, desire, attachment in the mind. And that's also then coming from the ignorance or the unknowing of true reality. There's some cravings, desires, attachments that are being triggered, and then the mind is generally in this agitated or irritated state. That's the four foundations of mindfulness: bodily sensations, feelings, the condition of the mind, and the mental objects. It could be any number of things that their mind is experiencing contact, and then one of their craving, desire, attachments is triggering it. There's no being that can cause you to be angry or frustrated. So even the afflicted spirits or hell beings, they can't cause you to be angry or frustrated or irritated. Just like your mom or your dad or your brothers and sisters, they can't cause you to be angry and irritated. It's your own mind's craving, desire, attachment that's causing it. Would it always be the case that a person who is consistently angry had afflicted spirits or hell beings in their life, or sometimes the case? Nope, not necessarily. It's not always the case. It's always craving, desire, attachment, though. Whenever there's anger in the mind, it's always going to be from craving, desire, attachment. Your mind can't get angry if you don't have craving, desire, attachment. I'm starting to think I can differentiate when there are afflicted spirits or hell beings in my vicinity. Okay, that's normal. As someone's mind is awakening, sometimes you can see formless beings. That's normal. Since I experience conceits and personal existence view, would it be wise and beneficial to use the following mantras for loving kindness meditation? May Chris be peaceful, may Chris be safe, may Chris be well, may Chris be free of discontentedness. I refer to these as affirmations. It's more of like a rewiring of the mind rather than a mantra. Oftentimes people think about mantras as like chants and things like that. But yes, if you would like to use your own name instead of I, a lot of people do this when they're working on eliminating personal existence view, that they just will refer to their name in the third person, or they might say, may this being be peaceful, or may this being be safe. You can totally do that, Chris. That can be very helpful for you. Okay. Any other questions here? Yes, ma'am. If you could use a mic, otherwise people online won't be able to hear you. It's not on yet. Just got to press the button. Once the lights come on, just wait a second or two.
That is important to teach kids, not just like how to brush your teeth, how to clean your body. It's also important to teach them how to clear their mind. But for now, I don't really know how to teach kids to clear their mind, especially for like certain young age. I feel like there's a limitation for them to, what they can understand. Mm-hmm. Can you show me like some examples or the method?
Yeah, the first thing that I would do if I was you is you need to learn how to meditate for yourself before you try to teach somebody else. You need to have several months of practice so you can understand and experience things, so that then when you're helping someone else to learn, like a child, you'll be better at that. So between the books and the videos and the podcasts, I have plenty of resources to be able to help you learn meditation. And even coming here or the live classes and stuff like that, you can learn how to do meditation. And then once you learn how to do it, you'll know how to teach it to a child. I've had children here. I would say the youngest one was maybe 3 years old. She was actually from China. There was a little girl that was here. She was running all around. Her mom couldn't, do anything to stop her from running around. And she looked at me and she said, "Can you please help me?" And I said, "Sure." And I just called her daughter over. I said, "Can you come sit over here with me? I would like to sit with you." And then she came and she sat down and she just looked at me. And I just said, "I'm going to close my eyes and I'm going to breathe through my nose. Would you like to do that with me?" And she was like, "Sure." And she started closing her eyes and she was starting to breathe. right? So I just invited her to do it. And it was her choices. I wasn't forcing her. I wasn't controlling her. I just invited her. I said, would you like to come sit with me? And then she came and sat down. And then I said, I'm going to close my eyes and breathe. Would you like to do this with me? And she's like, yeah, sure. So she did it with me. And then as she was breathing, I was just guiding her just lightly. I just said, okay, and take some nice deep breaths in through the nose and out through the nose. And then I just helped her get her breath established. And then I said, okay, now focus your mind on the breath. And anytime your mind moves off the breath, just cut it off and bring the mind back to the breath. And she sat there and meditated for a good long while. I was surprised. This was a really young child and she was running around like crazy. I didn't start formally teaching my son until he was 6 years old. But of course, there's going to be children that are capable of learning much earlier than that. And then there's some children who might decide to learn later, right? But if we teach them really young like this, particularly if we're doing meditation ourselves and they see us regularly doing it, they will follow along. Because the way that beings learn is they tend to conform to what's going on around them. So if you're a parent or a caregiver and you're regularly meditating and they see you doing it, after a few weeks, they might actually just come sit down on their own and do it themselves. And that's what you would ultimately like to see, is that they're just choosing to do it themselves. Whereas if it's like, hey, I want you to do this, come do this with me now. This is like trying to force them to do it. Whereas if you allow it to be their choice to do it, they're going to have more of a tendency to do that and do it long term.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay. So I don't see any other questions anywhere. So what I'm going to do is just end class by thanking all of you guys for coming. Thank you for joining for our class today, whether you're joining here, you're joining online. Thank you for everyone. Thank you for your questions and your interest to learn the teachings of the Buddha. If you guys would like to learn more, I teach here on Saturday, Sunday, and Wednesday as well. These are the regular classes. But then there's also classes Monday through Fridays at different times. You can see our calendar over there on the bulletin board. You can also see it on our website as well. If you go to buddhadailywisdom.com, you can see all the classes, courses, and retreats. And you can even schedule personal guidance with me. Even as you are traveling around the world, we can meet in Zoom one-on-one, because it's one thing to learn in these classes, but it's a whole nother thing to be able to relate it to your specific life. So as you need help and you need guidance, or you would like resources, I suggest that you start with the first book, and then there's videos and audiobooks and podcasts and things like that to be able to help you as well. So as you would like help, feel free to reach out, and I'm here to help you. Our next class is going to be on Saturday, which is our Pali Canon and English study group. And then on Sunday, it's going to be the group learning program. We're going to be sharing chapter 22. Chapter 22 is all about mental health, things like ADHD, ADD, bipolar disorder, things like this. I'm going to teach you about these things and how they can actually be eliminated and eradicated through training the mind through the teachings of the Buddha. So if you guys would like to learn these live, you can attend either 9 a.m. or 9 p.m. You can see here that on Sundays and Wednesdays, I teach here at the temple at 9 a.m. and I teach at home at 9 p.m. And all of these are live streamed. So no matter where you are in the world, you can actually attend live. And if you can't attend live, there's a recorded class as well, because these get recorded and you can just watch it at any time at your own leisure. So as you would like help, feel free to reach out. I'm here to help you. Whatever you decide to do, have a lovely rest of your day, and perhaps we'll see you in a future class. Okay? Be well. Take care. Sawadee krap. Sawadee krap. Thank you again for watching. Enjoy your meditation. Look forward to seeing you online and answering any questions that you might have. Thank you so much.